Welcome back to Data Dash, everybody. My name is Paul Sampson, and today is Friday, November 14th of 2025, and Bitcoin has come down into a major key area that we've been looking to for the past almost 6 months here, all right? And one thing of note here is that even for myself, I was selfishly, I was hoping we'd come down to this in a few more weeks or months. That could set us up for a couple of things here. But ultimately, we've come down to a high time frame average region. Again, that was very likely to be met in the second half of this year. And here we are, right? So 97,800 was that area. We're sitting around this time of recording, floating at about 96,300. We've got our yearly open just below us. We've got a couple of other things I want to cover today, one of which being the higher one of which being the overall setup that we were looking to as we came into the week of September 29th. Okay. And let's just take a peek at that just to kind of put it on the screen here. I'll go ahead and welcome in everybody as they're coming in. All right. And it is this right here. All right. So we've got a few key things here on the chart, and we're going to kind of break it down here. Level-headed, neutral, right? Not overly bearish, not overly bullish. Just going to kind of break things down for what it is, okay? It's the end of the week. It's the middle of the month. It's the middle of the quarter at this point as well. So we're into some interesting time frames. And Bitcoin is down about 20%, which isn't a death sentence necessarily, 25% now, which is on brand for a lot of these pullbacks that we've seen so far. But I do want to point out that we are coming into, again, high time frame average that we left at the beginning of this 6-month window. So all the way back in June, basically. So likely to come back in the second half of the year. Then on top of that, we had two overall targets of this harmonic, a bearish harmonic setup that was likely to complete around the $130,000 area. We topped off at 126. It was likely to complete around the last week of September, which it pretty much did. It was the first week of October. So everything was pretty much on time for that. And right now we're just coming into those key areas. So we're going to break down what that looks like for everything else and just kind of kick back and see what's going on in the market here. We've had some pretty big news as well going on, which I'm not really a huge news guy as far as just kind of getting overly wrapped up into it, because a lot of the times, especially when you get to levels that we're at now, right, you're coming into some big areas of support or resistance. And while, yes, there's always, the chance that we can go lower here, I think the news really pushes people in the when we get to the extremities, right, that people can just really get really worked up and worried about it. The government shutdown is an interesting one, right? Because that is what we're in the midst of right now. And I think that's what everybody tends to be blaming the moves on. However, I just have to point out that in this government shutdown, when we began it just a few weeks ago, because this is about the longest one so far, we not only pushed up to 116,000. So this is on a weekly time frame. Let's go to the daily. And we'll clean this up. Again, I'm going to come in and I'll say hello to everybody in the chat for a second. Right here, right? So at least in this point, we had the government shutdown going on around here around October, end of October, okay? And so during that time, government's fully shut down, got a nice push all the way up to 116,000. And yes, from there, we've taken a tumble. And now, of course, that's when everybody starts to blame the shutdown, okay? So it's just, the news is going to be there. It's going to be used for both ways. I don't get too wrapped up into it. I keep up on it, of course, to kind of just be aware. But overall, if you threw me into a cave with just trading view, I don't think I would look at the market any differently each day. But that's yet to be said. So let's see who's here. We got DZ. How are we doing, my friend? Samson Porter. Hoping Paul hops on here and says we all went a little oversold. We're all headed up. Truly can't wait to see. I do see a world where we at least get some relief here soon. I think that everybody's very, very, and again, I use the term everyone. I know that's not everyone out there, but there's a lot of fear in the street right now, right? So it's just we broke $100,000. That's usually, or just any kind of big round number. That's usually a time when people really tend to get a little squirrely. Big gold, when it just dropped below 4,000 just recently, was the same way. And then look at where gold is. We'll actually take a look at that. I think gold's actually pumping higher today. So yeah, Samson, love the name, Samson Porter. Can't promise you we're just going to go only up here. I will tell you the areas that we want to see reclaimed, so where we can see some upside. But for now, we're just coming into some big support again, coming into a weekend. Yeah, really nothing's overly broken here. All right. Slow noob, how are you? Nice to see you there. Greetings from Brazil. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Mr. T-Bone, what's going on, my man? T-Bone is taking time away from his golf simulator to come hang out with us on a Friday. Don't have any pumpkin spice coffee today, folks. It's a serious day, so it's just straight black coffee on the rocks. There might be some adult added into there, some adult beverage. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, see here. Got nothing to do with the government shutdown. People just need something to blame. Exactly. I always get debated on for anyone that's like heavy fundamental. And again, there's people that are going to specialize, or not even specialize, but maybe focus on one or the other. It's almost impossible, in my opinion, to be on top of the technicals in a great way and then be on top of the fundamentals, because there's so much fundamentally that gets thrown out at you constantly. It changes so quickly. The same thing can be said for the technicals as well. Again, like I'm not saying that I can guarantee you which way the chart is going to go. I just know when we lose a certain area, it's likely to go to the next one, right? And then vice versa. You flip one, we're looking up, and don't know or need to see where and when a tweet comes out to kind of tell me that, right? So that's how and that's just where I've just chose to, the path, I guess. So if there are people out there that can utilize the news a little bit better than me, then, and I'm sure there are, then that's great. I've just kind of chose to go there. It just keeps me, I don't know, less stressed to not be stressing about the news all the time. All right, maybe some selling to accumulate the new ETFs. Hello from Portugal. All right, we got a worldly space around here. Almost 200 people in here. Would you all do me a favor and just hit the like button? Drop me a little comment here. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you're enjoying your Friday. I know it's a little tough when the markets are coming down like this, but we're going to be breaking it all down here for about 45 minutes to an hour. So again, we got people in here from Brazil. It looks like someone else was in here from maybe it was just Brazil. Portugal as well. Yep, perfect. Harley, how you doing? 4-year cycles are over. That's what it is, says Tiago. 4-year cycles are you saying that it's over in the sense of like it's the end of the 4-year cycle right now, and we're gonna, come into that bear market that's traditional, or the 4-year cycles are over and we're going from there? So, morning from Texas. All right, we got Florida in here. That's where I'm at as well. Hello, my neighbor. Slovenia, California, Tampa, Dubai. Wow, we got a big crew. My friend Wayne. Scotland, France. Incredible. Good to see everybody. Glad you're all here. All right, so let's back it up for anyone that's new to myself, even to the channel, or just I've been working with Nicholas Merton here at the Data Dash channel since the beginning of the year, right? So I just started offering up to do some of these live streams on Fridays. Thought it was a good way to kind of end our week, just kind of cover what we have been through on the week, right? So you got the few videos. I think Nick actually posted a video on Monday. It was a really big, insightful one. It was a 40-minute, almost like a movie, really macro, big insights on just everything. Really, really great. If you haven't got a chance to check that out, do so. Just posted it a few days ago on Monday. And I posted a couple other ones throughout the week. But let's just kind of break down what's going on right now. Okay, so again, looking at a bearish harmonic setup right here, which was it's a sequence of Fibonacci's. This goes all the way back to the carry trade low of last year. And what you see here is you get this burst to the upside, you get this pullback, and then you get almost an equal move to the upside projected, just as basically the same move we had right here, projected from the low to the high side here. You can wrap some timing around it. You can look for a target area. Again, I was looking for about that 130. All right. And again, that's when we were trading at the tariff woes. But the timing was the big one, right? So we had to be aware that even all the way back here, this was almost a valid setup. and we pushed up one more time, and then we managed to push up on time. All right, so this was the week of the 29th of September where we topped, give or take. Again, it was 1 week later, of course, but yeah, very, very structurally sound. AB equals CD, bearish setup, just like when you're looking at a ascending triangle to some degree, right? There's a bearish setup, it comes down to correct. So that's where we are here. And then there's two major targets of that, one being the 382, secondary one being the gold pocket. When we had that huge liquidation wick back in the beginning of October, we essentially came right down towards that first target area, kind of held it a little bit, got the bounce. Of course, that's where government shutdown started, and things were looking up for a second, but ultimately came down now and met that secondary target. So that's pretty much where we're sitting at right now, right around the gold pocket. I will point out that it could get a little lower here, and especially since we're ending this on a Friday, or not ending this, but if this is where our low is currently, as we walk into next week, what happens a lot of the times, you can see here that I have this yearly open put on here. I'm gonna just take that off for now. But this is the gold pocket, essentially. So this is the target area, and we front ran the lower half of it. And on top of that, our yearly open does sit right there. So that's just another added area. But if this is our low for the week, just have to be aware that even if we get a little push up here, or we just kind of coast here for the weekend, many will most likely come in with new long positions, stop loss right below the low. And almost each and every week, what we get at that point, whether or not we're trading at the high or the low, you come down and you sweep the low, you knock everybody out from the weekend, just to get the overall move that they were targeting to go underway, right? So it's something to be aware of as we come into next week. I'll be updating that in the Discord as well, as usual. But overall, key area for us to get back above for any type of upside, I'm going to go ahead and clear off now the AB equals CD and just keep it as clean as possible, is this 6-month pivot, quarterly pivot. All right. So what that is that's the high time frame average of the first 6 months of this year and quarter 3 as well. Quarter 2, I believe. Can't remember which one exactly. But either way, the 6-month one was the one that had my attention. And the fact that they're both on the same exact area just really made me believe that we were going to come back to it. And statistically speaking, you will come back to these averages in the following session, all right, at some point. So sessionary times, meaning that if I'm looking at a 6-month time frame, so again, this is from the first 6 months of this year, the next session is the next 6 months of this year. So i.e. before the end of the year, we were going to come back to this level. So while we're trading all the way up here, we had to be aware of that. Okay. And so lo and behold, now we've come to it. Now we've lost it pretty much right away with no reaction from it. So that's not a great sign locally. All right. But again, we're at key support here as far as that AB equals CD goes. We are at a place where, again, fear is really high right here. Not that that's the only thing that, should be your main motivator to just come in and YOLO long or anything. But if we were to get back above at 97,800, that's what I'm looking for right here. And then from this, just as we had the likeliness to come down to this area in the next 6 months, we have another one up here, which it's not a guarantee by any means, but this is the monthly average now from October that's likely to be met in the month of November. That's a big move from where we are now. So again, it's not like a guarantee we have to see that in November, but that is an untapped average now sitting up here. And so just something I'd look to be aware of if we got back above that we more than likely get gravitated towards. So that's what I'll be looking for in the coming days, weeks here on Bitcoin. Doesn't really become relevant though until we get back above that 97.8. So I just got to point out how much of a line in the sand we are at right now, because for any more sizable downside, it really does begin with us living down below this for more than a couple days, right? We don't want to see a weekly close down here and all that stuff. So that's just really what I want to focus on there. Again, level-headed, neutral, not overly bearish, not overly bullish. We're coming down into a major area that we were relatively aware of at the highs here. It's hard when you get to these areas because, of course, you always have to look lower at that point, right? It's not just a given where you just get a huge, guaranteed bounce. So we have to be aware of what's around us. The context is key here. And for me, again, it's the yearly open for me from where we are. And that just gives us a little bit of extra confluence with that region. But on top of that, it is that AB equals CD target. Sorry, I just moved around everything. I was trying to organize it before the stream. Right, so it just got to be aware of this in the coming days here. We could really fiddle around in this region. I will point out again, we pop back above that 97.8. That's when things start to look up. But just don't be too concerned next week if we get another sweep down here, right? Just the thing with that is we'll have to be paying attention because we'll want to sweep and hold it at that point. But until we're living above 97,008 in my eyes, you just got to anticipate more downside here, right? So that's the little wiggle room that we're in, this little box region. We really want to see Bitcoin come out of this right here. Lakeland, Florida. What's going on, my friend? Massey, hello, welcome in. What are the odds of Litecoin doing something similar to Zcash? So that's a great question. So I don't know if many of you know this about me, but I'm a not a Litecoin whale by any means, but Litecoin is like just by association essentially is like one of my largest holdings. And from a long time ago. I don't even like really consider it because I've just locked it away at this point. Ethereum to me is more the one that I kind of like pick and choose and add to it and all this. And the Litecoin scenario was that when I did my very first purchase in crypto was Litecoin, and it was 2017 January. Just honestly by luck at the time of when I came into it. Well, not that it like long term you'd look at it as luck at this point, but it was the only three options on Coinbase was Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Litecoin was $3 at the time. Ethereum was $26. Bitcoin was $600, and I chose to dump some sizable funds at the time into Litecoin because I could get the most out of it. Right, just the most rookie move you could get. Didn't know really anything about any of them essentially. Very similar to I think what happens with people when they enter the market now, right? You go for the cheaper option, the XRPs or the ones that are under $1 because you can get the most of them, almost like getting the most bang for your buck, right? So, anyways, I chose Litecoin 2017 January, and ended up going from $3 to $300 in that 1 year. I didn't move it at all. I never traded it. I never did anything. It was such a hassle to trade things back then, anyways. And so 100x that basically, unrealized, of course, and then at the end of December, right, right as the market's topping, which you didn't know that at the time, that's when I finally decided to move it out and try to, put it in other things. And I ended up actually taking all the Litecoin out, 100x basically. Didn't pay myself at all, which was hilarious to think back to, but put it into Tron and XRP and all these other ones at the time, which ended up actually performing stupid well in that following month. So, I mean, I was really able to build this thing up again, unrealized. Only to just basically slowly just, lose it, not lose it all necessarily, but it went all the way back to my original investment position on Litecoin. So after that, as soon as I got back to that point, I just locked it all up. And so Litecoin is one that I actually keep a decent little eye on, but I don't necessarily know how well it'll do in the big picture. One thing I do like about Litecoin that as far as like looking at the where it could go type of scenario is that it's got a very small circulating supply, right? So when we're looking at things like XRP and some of the other ones that have thousands and billions of supply, Litecoin's got, I think a couple 100 million, if even 100, I think it's got 80 million. So it's like 4x the size of Bitcoin. But it has not been performing well. So the question was, do I see Litecoin doing something like Zcash? It's really, I do see a world where Litecoin could get going. Obviously, we got to get Bitcoin to kind of do some stuff here too. But Litecoin has had a very similar like run here, or not run, but a range very similar to XRP right before we did have that really decent breakout. Now Zcash just went like 20x. So I don't know if that we're going to see something along those lines, but I think that if we get a really decent multi-year break here, so meaning that we've been ranging here for Litecoin for multiple years, and there's really one level for me I'd really needed to get back above or get above in general is 146. You can see here we ran it up, got tagged once here, front ran it, just back to the range each and every time. Even on that liquidation event, you just had a straight nuke right down. We had this wasn't untapped at the time, but this was just a key level here. This $53. You can see how 53 has just been regarded over time here. But we came down to the bottom side of the range, back into the range here. So I do think that there's a world where we're building up some momentum here. It's going to depend on how the next coming months here go for Bitcoin. I'm in the camp that we actually get a sizable run on the market next year. Okay. Now, of course, I'm gauging the market as we go here, so things can change, of course. But yeah, nothing's really broken for me on the whole market, even with Bitcoin coming down to like 92, 93. Again, we're pushing back down to some setups that have been taking place for the last few months here. It's just going to really depend. We're at the end of the year too, so we're going to have some big new fresh data in the next coming weeks here. But let's just pretend Bitcoin either ranges out or pushes back up, in the coming months, and altcoins come with it. And we're going to, I'll actually cover that a little bit too, the overall altcoin idea here that I have, because again, when I look at the ETH versus BTC chart, which to me, it used to really be like the main, that's all you really needed to look at altcoin seasons and altcoin rallies. I really don't want to call them the altcoin seasons, because it's not traditionally like what we had back in 2017, where again, you could 100x something in a year and then you could 50x it in a month. Like that's what I think many think of when they're looking at an altcoin season, or even in 2021 when you had things like Polygon and Solana and everything else, like 200x over the course of a few months. I think those days are obviously gone, and it just has to do with the dilution of the market. For one, the market caps here now in the market are a lot bigger, and there's just a lot more to where there's not enough to go around essentially. So where are we going with that? Oh, the altcoins. I'll get to the ETH BTC pair that kind of lead me to that. But yeah, when I'm looking at Litecoin and just, taking away the idea that Bitcoin's in a bear market for sure right now and all that. And again, I don't really subscribe to that at the moment. I think we're just kind of consolidating. I figured we would get a good range from that 126 and probably for the next coming weeks and months here. So we're still, again, we're on the line in the sand area. So I just want to see us hold that region for Bitcoin. But yeah, with Litecoin here, assuming things hold with Bitcoin, I think we could push up, and it's 146 for me. If we clear 146 and you start to see daily and weekly closes above that, and again, you can see how we've not been back above that in so long, and it's been the one level that's holding us down. I think you got a big move here, right? So 182, I think, would be an easy one. We'd probably tag 220, 221, push up to that 270 mark. I think that we could see a really sizable move here out of Litecoin, right? So the answer of, do I think it'll do what Zcash did? I don't necessarily think that. Sometimes you just have those one-offs. Let's just look at Zcash where it went. Just a rocket. But I will be the first person to retire and disappear if we do see this out of Litecoin. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, what a move, right? So just long consolidation. Actually, let's just chop this up, because I guess let's just see how she looks without getting. I know the privacy coins and everything like that, everything that's potentially behind the move here, but really I think that sometimes you just get a pop on some of these and they just go, and then you just start building up the leverage positions behind it. Everybody starts trying to short it. It just makes a short squeeze. Yeah. So, but if you're looking at this, that looks exactly like Litecoin, actually, now that I think about it, right? You have that same almost double top scenario. You've got this huge range that we were in for the same amount of time, just about, with, again, the reason I consider these moves very similar to like an XRP move, and XRP just had the same exact move to the upside as well, where we consolidated forever. You were putting in some higher lows across the way. You almost had this rounded bottom formation in here, and then you get that pop, and it was just massive. Yeah, Litecoin actually does look similar to that. So we'll see, my friend. I do think that Litecoin could see a really decent pop to the upside. It all depends on getting above 146. All right. And it's one of those things where you just have to figure out a way to manage it for yourself, because of course you don't want to it's hard. You don't want to like only wait till it's above 146 to just get involved, of course, right? Because at that point you're looking at, we're already up like 100 or 200% from where it's just been. It just went down to $53. By the time it's at 150, it's up 200%. It's like it's a little bit more risky up there. So you want to find some more local areas to get involved and then kind of manage it along the way. And what I mean by that is if we go to 146, maybe take some off the table. Let's look to see if we flip that, because at that point, again, we could just reject from it, come down. You could add to your position if that's the case. And if not, if it does just rocket through, you got skin in the game. You're along for the ride already. You can handle a 20% pullback better than somebody that just buys fresh. Like, so that's what I'm always looking for. Those 30% red days in the altcoins and stuff is usually what I'm looking to get into. All right, let's see here. G7 said he sold all his coins, so it should pump for us now. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate your service. We'll start a collection jar. $76K is incoming. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we get too much deeper here, the tariff lows are probably what would be the next on the docket, right? So I don't disagree. Again, it's just a time to be paying attention here, because if we do get back above that 98, you got a sizable move on your hand. All right, so this is the idea too behind some of the next coming months. So like with the Litecoin idea, right? If we were to see anything out of Litecoin, you're gonna have to see the rest of the market come up a bit. This ETH BTC chart, I made multiple videos on this. I was covering this pretty decently since 2023 on the way down here. And what this is, again, sequence of Fibonacci's, set list of ratios, set list of target areas. And we had a completion zone right on time, 6-year long setup here. So it's going to take probably about 1.5 to 3 years to totally unravel to the target areas. We've already pretty much met one. We did front run it, was the only thing. And it's just a simple 382, then your B point here, and then the gold pocket. There's an aggressive target. It comes all the way back up to the C point. But mostly we target into this region here, right? So April was our low. You get the push up. We've got a pull back here, pretty much to like a local local 382. Is pretty much where we're sitting at right now. And overall, in the next coming months, just really looking to see us slowly kind of move back up into this region here with the main target I'm looking at around that gold pocket. Now, it doesn't have to come into this area. Could be a little sooner, but as far as like just taking this whole setup and extrapolating that for time, that's what this window here gives us, to where that would just be a natural, progression here to like basically unravel into that area. And if that's the case, that's where we could see Ethereum outperform Bitcoin for some time, right? So you're talking, even if that's just, 6 months here, 3 months, whatever. I mean, this in this window right here from April to September, that's what we saw as well, right? Because in this move, this was when ETH went from 1,400 to 4,900. And while, yes, we didn't make new all-time highs or anything like that, in that very short time, we saw ETH push 260% just about. So we could see something along those lines as we go into next year. And usually when we see ETH moving like that, the altcoins join the party too, right? So I know it seems like recently they haven't. It's definitely been more choosier. Like you have to kind of, really find the winners here. Very similar to the stock market almost, where you see the overall stock market doing okay. Some of them really actually putting in, pullbacks, while the remaining high, the S&P, the indices, and some of these, more tech stocks and things are just making new all-time highs. Not everything is. And it's kind of the same situation we have for the crypto market as well. So I can't say that all altcoins would rally along with this idea, but ETH would. And that's just the main driver of this chart, because it is just measuring ETH only. But just in the past, usually when ETH is outperforming Bitcoin, if it's gonna, we do tend to see the rest of the altcoins go with it too. Dominance is another one, been talking on pretty heavy as well. And we're just in a really old major range here. pretty much had the old staircase up all the way up here to that 66% area. And then we got the drop right back into the range, back tested the range high here. So as long as we're holding now below the 62%, got to anticipate that we're more than likely going to start rotating this range again. All right, and this is a high time frame. This is a weekly chart here. So you're talking, this could be months or a year here before we get down to any of these, major levels here. But generally speaking, when the dominance of Bitcoin comes down, the market tends to do pretty decent, right? So the altcoins and everything like that. So those are two reasons behind some of the things I'm looking at as we walk into next year. Let's just see how our buddy Bitcoin is doing right now, because again, that 97.8 is just so key. We're just kind of floating around this region. So end of the week, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if next week we started off with a sweep of the low type of deal, right? Come down and formally meet that gold pocket right here, touch back to the yearly open. If we do get a little bounce here, the only thing that, like I said, it's one of those times where if I was looking for a brand new long, it's definitely going to be when we flip this region here. But context is key here, right? So if we don't come down to this, I just have to be aware that this is here. The gold pocket area, for one, is untapped. It's the AB equals CD secondary level as well. And we have a yearly open. So if I'm going to attempt a long here, I just got to give myself enough wiggle room where if you're going to have any kind of massive leverage, you're not going to make it on that one, right? And 20x and 15x and all that, unless you're just really willing to like liquidate that position, that's going to be too big. And for that reason alone is why I could see us starting off next week, where if we get a little push right here now, we push back up over the weekend, a lot of people are going to enter long again. You get that one wick down, take out the low, meet this target, back test the yearly open, knock out everybody that just entered all over again, right? And we just do that time and time again, right? So that's what I'll be looking for as far as that goes for any kind of longer term outlooks here, where we want to see the market retracing up. It really comes down to this 97,800 right now. Bitcoin dominance is falling. ETH is showing some strength. Anybody here short Bitcoin at 120, better take some profits. VeChain, we can take a look at VeChain. Paul, the second big ETH. Paul, the second big ETH, please. The second big ETH. What does that mean? Chicago in the house. Oh, another thing about ETH too, which Paul Barron was pointing this out, and that's, again, like, I'm not usually looking to like a ton of news or anything, but I can appreciate when things line up with certain things. And again, I know that when you get to these key areas, especially when you're in the extremities, right? The big supports and the big resistances, and then of course you get the massive news comes in, and usually it's to continue the sentiment, but sometimes it flips as well. And the ETH setup, let's just take this off. So first of all, actually, before we get into that, ETH's not looking too bad here, to be honest. We're just trading last week's range, which again, we see time and time again. So this is what I'm talking about here. We've got last week's range here. We started off at the high. More times than not, you start the new week off and you end up just running last week's range. You may come down, take the low or the high beforehand. But overall, that's all we've been doing. It's the end of the week now, so this is a little bit less relevant because this is already a week old data. So next week we'll have something new. More than likely it'll be very tight again because we haven't done anything this week. And when you have a tight range, I take that back. This is pretty big. Usually when we have like those like 3% ranges, like something like if we saw this happening, right, you tend to get a pretty big move right after, which this was a good example actually. But yeah, aside from that, really nothing too crazy. I would like to see ETH close. I want to see us holding that yearly open as much as possible around here. And yeah, I mean, that's still just kind of that. We're going to be paying attention to see how Bitcoin reacts throughout this weekend as we head into next week. But let's go ahead and turn that off. I just want to kind of highlight what we saw last time when we had a ETH upgrade. And the thing with this is I look at it a little loosely because the same thing could be said with a lot of other projects like what's the one like XRP, for example, the amount of partnerships or the let's think of another one real quick, just the ETF listings for like HBAR, Solana, or all these things that just kind of just happened. And you would think like, oh, that's amazing. It's gonna, have a huge influx in the price, and it just doesn't, right? And it's one of those times where like all the good news and the market's still coming down, like it just usually doesn't make sense, and it's just kind of trappy. So it's a little hard to wrap yourself around all those things unless you're looking to the bigger picture, where it's like within the next few years, yeah, these things could really maybe be performing well. And then you look back and it's like, oh, well, they just got all these, it's all the adoption that's coming and all that stuff, right? But in the short term, it doesn't really help too much. So I do say this with a little grain of salt, but again, I'm holding that yearly open is a key thing here, but I am looking for ETH to get that next move up here. And we have a new upgrade coming to the Ethereum network called Fusaka, which is just essentially just going to help out with scalability, allow for faster transactions, and allow to handle more transactions essentially. And we had a very similar thing happen just on May 7th of this year called Pectra. Now the thing is, at the time, before the overall move up, if you were rocking with me back then, right, we were looking for the elevator move. Let me find it really quickly. If I can. Man, I got a Christmas one from last year. That's funny. All right, if I can't find it, we'll just move on. But the point, oh, here it is. Okay. So the point of this was that well before I even knew that there was a update or an upgrade going on, this is what we were targeting on ETH at the time. Okay. Alt bat right into a key area. You take out the lows here, sets up a pretty nice move back to the upside. This is what I was looking at as the stairs down. And a lot of times you get the elevator up. And so I called it that. And then we had 382 was a major target. Gold pocket was another major target. C point is your aggressive target from there. And then at that point, we just continued up. But that's what I was looking for. And that was the setup at hand while we were down at the lows. We had this little burst up right here. And then all of a sudden you get this upgrade that just added to the fuel, right? So, but we were already looking for something ahead of time. And that's just like what's the key is there. Now, there's not really anything too overly in our face here. Just aside from us getting a slight pullback right here. I'd like to, like I said, I'd really like to hold that yearly open, and then from there look to like take it up to that next size there, right? So let's just see. I think we've gotten a little bit deeper than last time I updated this. Let's see where the all right, still pretty much putting us in that region. So yeah, I mean, higher highs, higher lows. You could argue that we're starting to, switch that up now that we're losing this region right here. Again, why it's so important in my eyes to hold the yearly open in general. But similar to Bitcoin too, we have another high time frame average that's likely to be met. All right, it's got high probability, not a guarantee by any means, but it is. It does sit up here about 3,900. And a lot of times we get a quick move to those, right? It's like a snapback almost. And it's just a mean reversion. It's like similar to looking at a moving average or anything like that. But that does sit at 3,900. Again, line in the sand currently sits at this 33. And weekly time frame wise, just like last week, I would love for us to close back above the yearly open for the week. So we had a move just like this last week where we dipped down and we were hanging down here pretty scarily. And then you can see we scooted back up before we closed out the week. Ideally, I'd like to see that again here. All right. And then from there, honestly, my true blue view of what would happen, just if we were going with gut stuff, would be that Bitcoin sweeps that low next week and we run it back. That would just be, again, just picturing, where we are right now. And even if that just means we push back up to this region and then you still go lower, right? And bear market resumes or whatever the case is, right? But that's how I'm viewing Bitcoin here. Also, another thing to just kind of be of note, yearly open, right? Important to think about. I think it's interesting to see that for the first bull run, at least, that I can remember, that we are literally ending the year. Well, I take it back. Maybe 2021 was about the same way. But we've been trading in like, this is where we started the year, right? So we were basically right back to it. So very, very tight range for Bitcoin this year, which is a little interesting to me. It doesn't really mean too much here, but it's just of note, right? Even though we've been in a sizable run ever since 2022, it is it's interesting to note there. We'll point out that for our overall year here too. So just to just kind of highlight again, like it's one of those things where you can't get too bearish at support. I feel like I just coughed up a dust bunny. That was interesting. You can't get too bearish at support here, folks, because we are sitting at the bottom of a very high time frame range. It is developing, to be fair, so it's still got a few more weeks before it completes. We're coming back to a really big region, our yearly open, okay? And we've got that AB equals CD set up here, and we've got our high time frame average. I know that we're below it at the moment, but it really just should be looked at as a region. All right. So we flirted around with this area for today, the weekend, what have you. Again, next week would be interesting to see us just actually come down and sweep that and then get a push back. Got to prepare for these ahead of time a little bit, because then, of course, if those moves happen and when they happen, it's paired up with some news. Let's just say the government reopens next week, for example, and then you just get this huge move back where, again, taking all news out of the equation, a quick move back to this level is very, very natural. That's our high time frame average. It's just returning to the mean, right? So, and a lot of times when those happen, it's very quick, and usually somebody's like, "Oh, it's because of that," and again, maybe they go hand in hand. I just tend to look the one way over the other, but I do know that day's coming, right? The government shutdown is going to end, and I imagine that that's going to bring us some volatility. We are going to get all that data that's been missing for the last few weeks, right? Jobs data and stuff like that, where I think that many are thinking it's not going to be good. It probably shouldn't be good, but just because the last few years, I feel like it's just been coming out shockingly at times. Wouldn't it be funny to see it actually come out and like beat expectations or something somehow, even though it's like everybody definitely getting job losses and things. We got Thanksgiving coming up. Okay, so I bring that up because, again, let's just assume that we get a little pushback up here in the coming days or a week or two. It usually happens around Thanksgiving. I don't know why. It's always the joke, right? Where you go home and you tell your friends and family to buy crypto. I don't think many do that anymore, but that's just something to keep in mind for some reason. But yeah, really, it comes down to this, folks. We're price action wise, line in the sand is really where we're at. I would say on a high level, 97.8 is what we need to get back above for any type of upside. Sizable downside at this point can very well be had below this box. So I'm not going to say it can't, right? Somebody had mentioned 76K incoming. If we really start losing this area right here, that AB equals CD, let's take a look back here. Right, the main setup that's pretty much at hand now. So this one right here, that again, time, price, everything aligned right around that region. I assume that we would actually range around a little tighter, a little longer, but got there a little bit earlier than anticipated. And if we do lose that, the next target is the C point. So that's taking out tariff lows at that point. So we don't want to see that unless you do want to see that, but that's how we got to manage it from here, right? So short term, even if that's what ends up playing out, right? I think that we're in a position right now of support again, where could even just get a bounce back up to this, whatever, let's just say 110-ish, 108-ish again. That would be my more next few weeks outlook, regardless of what happens here, right? So just need to get back above that 97, 800 is the key. All right. Yeah, if you can mastermind, if you don't mind selling your Litecoin bag so it can pump 30x for us, I will send you some sharings. In a bear market, bullish news gets shrugged off. Very true. Though in a bull market, though, it does too, right? Like it just, I think it just really comes down to, and the way I'll say that is, right, so like let's just scoot over here. This was probably the most, well, there was two extremely gangster moves in this bull run so far, in this whole last move. The FTX shakeout was probably the I'll say that forever. That was the most gangster shakeout I've ever seen, because you had everybody. There's always times when people are fearful of like just things are going to go down 90%. They don't want to lose and they want to try to buy back lower, right? That's the bear market fear. And the FTX collapse, you had everyone willingly get rid of all crypto because they just thought it was going to go to zero. They didn't want to buy it back. They just wanted to get out of it, right? You had FTX collapse. There was rumors about Binance and Coinbase collapsing. Everybody, not everybody, a good handful of people I even knew personally, like they ended up buying Bitcoin, like 60K back in 2020, of course, or 2021. And they held it all the way down. And then they get to a position where it's like, they were holding. They're like, oh, I'll just wait for it to go back up, blah, 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 DCA. And you get to 15K, I kid you not, and the absolute low, and everybody sold off, tax harvesting, fear that it would never come back, whatever. Sold off the end of December, and you had 3 days to consider getting back in January before it took off again, and it just never came back. So that's just funny. Anyways, this is another, somebody just said that the bearish news or the bullish news gets shrugged off and all that stuff. But the news is really just, it always has, it's always interesting, right? So let's zoom this out a little bit. This was a really good example of just really bullish news that didn't amount to anything at the time, right? So this was dating back, this is last year at this time, and inauguration day was coming up, pro crypto administration. You had the federal, the currency reserves, everything was just overly bullish for us, right? Like everything looked good. We had this move coming up, and again, you had a nice, very, very perfect shark, which again, you took the lows down here. I can't remember what was going on right here, but it was just short term, but it wasn't like anything massive at that point. But then you come up, this is inauguration day right here. You peak off. This is a bearish setup with three major targets that take a few weeks to get down to them. One is right here. Secondary one is right here. Third one is right here. And you make your way all the way down to those areas. And that was on the back of extremely great news. Then from there you push back up, and then of course the tariff stuff. It's just a game of back and forth. Again, I'm not going to say that the news doesn't play a role. It's just, I feel like personally the news is just so headwindy, man. You can't keep up with it. But that's because I also focus so much here that I just don't have the time, I think. So I'm not ignorant to the fact that that's probably a piece of it too. Because sometimes some people will point out, like, again, like Paul Barron will catch, some of these bigger upgrades and things that are occurring that I won't be aware of, like, at the time when he is. And I even like learn that from him, which is good. Again, like that's just a big piece of, we all only have so much time in the day. So, other people focusing on other areas is a good thing. But yeah, I'm going to end it here with this. Hope you all had a great time with me here. I know I sure did. I'll do this every Friday, of course. Again, I'll leave you with the key level here of 97,800 that we need to get back above. Next week, don't be shocked to see a little sweeperooski, right? Losing here is not great. Really, where we're already at is not great as far as like seeing some continued downside. So I will say that currently you got to anticipate lower, but at the same time, we're at major support. Can't get too bearish at support. Look for that, reclaim, recover some ground, and then we'll probably see a little move back up towards our monthly average here. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. If you guys would like to come check us out in the Discord, get access to Nicholas Merton's monthly dash report as well. You can join us over at data-pro.com. That's where I put all my updates, all the analysis, educational course that's included, not basically, it is included, that I update all the time. Exclusive member videos, all that good stuff. Aside from that, wish you all a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'll see you on the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.